My name's Emily Martin, and I'm taking you behind the scenes to talk to equine artists from around the world. This is Artist Unlocked. Alright everybody, welcome back. We are on episode 2 of season 2 of Artist Unlocked. This week's guest is Samantha of Autumn Wood Studios. One of the things I really admired about Samantha was that she has not really taken a break from customizing per se. Every year, in some capacity, she's working on her craft and her skills, and it really shows. You can really see a difference between the first custom she ever did and the customs that she does now. And I want to let that be an encouragement to you that if you feel like the work that you're creating right now is not up to par with the vision that you have in your head, just keep practicing, because eventually you will gain the skills necessary to create work that you're truly proud of. I did want to make a quick note. I made this announcement on my Instagram. If any artist out there or person hosting an event, a show, I know there's lots of photo shows going on right now because of the pandemic, I am offering some sponsorship slots for you guys. If you head over to my Instagram, it's Frost Studios Equine Art. You can go ahead and DM me. There's a post on there with some more information about the sponsorships and what to expect. And then if you are interested, definitely go ahead and shoot me a DM and we can work something out. But basically the gist of it is I'm offering 30-second advertisement spots. Some are just audio only, so I'll just verbally say something. And then there's a tier where you can send me some images of your work or clips and things like that, and you can have it be a little bit more visual as well. This is great if you're trying to get the word out about your commission books being open. Maybe you have some sales pieces going on, some merch, I don't know. Or if you're trying to promote an event or get entries for your show, things like that. I also want to open it up to the model horse filmmaking community. If you guys are releasing trailers and series for things and you want people to go check it out, definitely this is also something for you. So once again, go ahead and just check out my Instagram, check out the post to see if you're interested, and then if you are interested, definitely feel free to shoot me a DM, or if you're interested, you could also comment below and we can chat. As always, definitely go ahead and hit that subscribe button or follow button depending on whether you're watching or listening to the show. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. So, for those who don't know, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself, how long you've been in the hobby, your studio name, things like that.
All right, so I am Samantha Ensinger, also known as Autumn Wood Studios. I've been in the hobby for about 10 years, I believe, but I haven't been painting as an artist for all 10. I started painting in 2013, so that's been about 7 years. So I collected for a little bit and then got into the art form of the hobby.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, kind of ties into my next question, is just take me along your journey of like getting into the hobby. How did you originally start, and then how did you start and like discover the artistry side of things as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I asked my parents when I was, I think like 9 or 10, for a horse for Christmas. You know, everyone I feel like does that. But they gave me a classic set of Briars. It was like the Clouds Legacy set or something. So that was my first model that I had. And I had collected classics for a couple years. And on Instagram, I was always seeing these artists and people like painting their horses these beautiful colors. And I was like, man, I really wish I could do that. Like, how awesome would that be if I could just like pick out a horse and say, I want this horse to be buckskin or whatever, and just paint it. So I was really intrigued by that idea. So when I was 12, I took one of my classics and found some primer in the basement that's like for houses and bricks and stuff, and just brushed it on my model and found some craft paint and made my horse a bay pinto, I believe. It was kind of funny because, you know, your first horse is always comical, and I was 12. So you can imagine. Wow. I think I do have a picture of it. I think it's the first post on my Instagram account from a long time ago. So if you really want to see what it looked like. But that really sparked like my interest in like the art side of the hobby, just being inspired by other artists on social media. And I'm really thankful for that at this point, seeing how far I've come. Like, I'm glad I had that initial spark to want to try it.
Do you still have the horse itself? Because I know I like the ones that I did. I don't even know if I have them anymore. I might have pictures of them, but
I know. I wish I had mine. Like, it was so honestly ugly, but I wish I had kept it like on my shelf or like in my closet or somewhere. But I'm pretty sure I sold it in like a body lot, like when I didn't know what I was doing when I was so young. So I don't have it, but I do have a photo that I'm very grateful to have, because that's like literally the first custom. And you have early customs, but like your first custom is like especially important, I think. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, one of the fun things I've been able to hear, like, doing this show so far, because I've done 9 interviews so far.
Oh, cool.
Is it's really interesting to hear, like, what people used with their first customs, because, like, there's such a wide variety of things. Some people, like, don't even use primer. Most people tend to use, like, either craft paints or, like, some kind of craft pastel or something like that. But
right.
it's really interesting to see kind of where we all kind of start from the same place, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. It is kind of fun because it was literally like the only paint I had in my house. I found it in the cupboard. It was like, I think, burnt sienna, and maybe I used white. Maybe I just used the primer underneath as my white. I can't remember. But it had these huge, giant brush strokes because I used like a huge like painting brush that you'd use on a wall. And it had all these hard bristles. It was just a mess, but it was fun. So it's a good memory, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So then we'll come back to the studio aspect of things, but do you have at least a favorite aspect of the hobby? I know some people have told me that they don't really feel like they have like a least favorite per se, but at least a favorite part of the hobby in general.
I think I'd have to say just how like there's a community within the hobby, and that really allows you to find like some good friends, because obviously the hobby, we're all connected by a love of horses or a love of model horses, usually both, obviously. So you know that anyone that you're talking to in the hobby is not like judging you or thinking you're weird for having models. So it's just kind of nice that you can like easily have something to connect with off the bat and just like make some really good friends. I think that's been, looking back, that's probably been the best part of the hobby for me. Just like I said, being inspired by like an artist on Instagram years ago really like got me into it more. So just being able to be online and see other people and know other people that have horses and model horses, it really brings it together and makes you feel like you're not the only one doing it, and you're not alone. Like, there's so many friends that you can find and that I've made through the hobby. So that's definitely my favorite part, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I love going on Instagram. One of my favorite parts is just seeing what other people are making. It totally like inspires me to keep going.
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely a big inspiration for me too.
Do you have any best memories or moments? I don't know if you've had the opportunity to go to like Briarfest or any live shows, or even just, you know, good moments on Instagram, things that have stuck with you.
Yeah, so I did go to Briarfest one year, 2014. So I was 13 maybe. That was my first and my only year at Briarfest, just because usually I go on vacation in July and it always happens to be the same week of Briarfest. Yeah, so I haven't been back yet, but I have been at the horse park a ton, but just not for that event. But that's a good memory in itself, just knowing that I've been there and like know what the experience is like. Otherwise, I guess maybe my best or favorite part would just be the memories I have I keep talking about when I was younger, but thinking about it, like I would just take my models out in the yard and like do photos with them.
Yes.
Or just like as I've grown in painting and stuff, that's just a good like memory of the progress that I've made. Honestly, I don't really know of any bad part that I've experienced with the hobby, which is awesome. So it's all kind of been a good experience and good memories just along the years since I've been in the hobby for so long.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it totally, you mentioning like taking photos of your models in the backyard, like that sends me back to like when I used to do that too, and I would watch like Fox Glory like 123 on
Yes.
YouTube.
Yes.
And I would watch like Vengeance Rain and everything, and I would like go out with my models and try to like do my own thing, and I would like drag my sister out there with me and like make her do like the voices for some of them.
Right. And no, it's like such good memories. Just like they're funny now looking back on, but honestly, they're some of like the best like good things to remember from like childhood years with model horses.
Yeah, so true. So I guess coming back to your studio side of things, I know artists have a wide range of where they work. I know some, work at the kitchen table and then progress forward, some stay there. What does your workspace look like?
My workspace is a desk in my bedroom, actually. And it has like some storage, like shelves on it for where I keep my paints and brushes and primer and sealer and sculpting tools and pigments, pastel, like, everything. It's all in this big desk in my room that I work from. My airbrush is here, and I have one big shelf for my models, which gets kind of cramped because I do have a collection in addition to my painting, of course. So I'm sitting here actually next to a ton of bodies that have taken over my room. And luckily in the hobby, everyone knows what a body means, so I don't have to explain. But there's, I think, I have 3 dozen stablemates like sitting around because I've been obsessed with them lately. But my studio runs out of my bedroom right now, and it's honestly kind of nice to just have it all in one spot. Like all my supplies are here. I don't have to like run to another room or run downstairs or in the basement to like find anything, because when I get into like a long painting like routine, it can be annoying to have to get up and like find a tool. So it is nice to have it all in one spot. It's kind of small, I guess you would say, but it's definitely adequate for the number of horses that I'm painting. I don't have like hundreds and hundreds. So it works and it's comfortable.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of a similar setup to what I have. I have kind of, I don't know, like a third of my bedroom designated as the studio space.
Yes, definitely. It helps to kind of have it in your own space too, and not like shared with other roommates or family members.
I know you mentioned a few different types of mediums when you were describing like the materials you have. What mediums do you primarily work in?
I use mainly acrylic paints and pastels for the main body color of the horse. I usually airbrush an acrylic base coat, which really helps get like color on the horse, and then I shade more detailed with pastels and do dapples with pastels too. I sometimes use colored pencils, artist quality colored pencils for like details on the hooves and stuff, sometimes on like white markings, but the majority of it is with acrylics and pastels, I believe. I also have some Pearl-Ex pigments that I occasionally use. Those help give a good like shine if you need it, especially for like breeds that are especially shiny and like dilutes and stuff. But those are the main mediums that typically are used.
That's awesome. I'm looking to get into like kind of doing what you're doing with the airbrush of like base coating models, because I really like oils, but like I hate how long it takes to get like a solid color buildup just from the oils, and they take so long to dry. So do you like using your airbrush?
I do. I think it's really helpful, honestly. I've done horses in just pastels, and you can get really nice results that way. My recent Django stablemate, he's great, and he was actually done in like 75% pastels because he has dapples. But I've always wanted to try oils, honestly, because I think you can really get nice blending and like color tones with them, but I've been terrified because of the drying time and not knowing how to use them. So I've stuck to my airbrush, and I would recommend it for sure. It can be temperamental, and there is a learning curve to it. It's not like a magic wand or anything, as some people would say, but it's definitely a useful tool, I think, for at least base coats.
Yeah. Yeah, I think hopefully that'll make a big difference. I think sometimes people I know myself, it's like a little intimidating, just the cost factor of getting into airbrushing is pretty high. But I've also heard from people that like if you try to invest in a lower quality airbrush, like you're not gonna get for one, you're not gonna have as much fun because it's gonna break on you more. So like I've just had people tell me like if you're gonna get into it, like you should at least invest in like a nice middle of the road one because otherwise it's just not gonna work.
Mm-hmm. I would second that opinion. I started with like a starter kit and it worked fine, but I definitely had to upgrade.
Do you have any favorite like tools that you use?
Favorite tools? Honestly, I would probably say the airbrush. I would consider that a tool. I'm looking like at my desk to see. I have this really tiny, I think it's like 20/0, like brush for details. I have always, well, not always, but stablemate eyes especially are like really tiny, and to paint them it's like impossible to do unless you have a tiny brush. So I was looking through my like storage the other day and I found this really tiny like 20/0 brush.
Oh my gosh.
So that has been a favorite tool recently because it lets me actually get detail in eyes, because they used to be like mainly black with like, you know, the white showing in the corner, but I've been able to do blue eyes and like brown eyes on stablemates, which has been a really cool addition to my work. I think it brings out more detail. So those are definitely two tools that I appreciate, my airbrush and my tiny brushes.
Yeah, I feel like especially if you're painting anything small, there's not enough to be said about having like the right tools for that, because you're right, stablemate eyes is like if you have like a normal sized paintbrush, you like put one dot and it's the whole eye.
I know. Yeah, and it goes like outside the edges and stuff. And I also really love my pan pastels because that's how I do dapples, and I wouldn't be able to do dapples without my pan pastels. So I really appreciate those too.
Yeah. Do you use it primarily for that? Because I'm curious about those. I haven't heard a ton of people, I guess, maybe using them in the tutorial sense. How much of a difference do you notice with them?
I use them if I'm doing like dorsal stripes and like primitive markings on dun and Grula horses. Because you can, like, it's hard to do that with the airbrush because you can get like graininess and lines can be not thin enough sometimes. But mostly I use mine for doing the dapples. I'll like shade and then go in and do detailed dapples with them, and they're also useful if you have like if you want to shade in muscle grooves and lines and like on the face, like around the lips and the nose and stuff, and in ears, just all those little places that it's harder to get to with my airbrush. I usually go in with pastels. Oh, and nose pinking and like skin pinking if you have like white heels or a paint horse and you need to add some color. I use the pastels for that too. So they're definitely a useful thing to have around.
Okay. Yeah, and can you apply them with like regular paint brushes, or are they easier to apply with other tools?
I've been using makeup brushes actually, because makeup brushes are like specifically designed to hold like powders and pigments, typically, more than paint brushes is like paints and like more liquidy stuff. So I've known a lot of other artists that use makeup brushes. I just got like a pretty cheap like pack on, I think maybe Amazon or somewhere online, just like a bunch of different sizes, mostly small ones that can help you get into the detailed areas, since that's what I use them for.
Awesome. Yeah, I've just been curious about them for the longest time because I know they're becoming increasingly popular, so there's definitely something to them.
Yeah, I've appreciated them a lot because they're good quality. I used to have like a really cheap like craft store set that just wasn't up to par with the artist standards. So pan pastels are great.
Do you have a favorite scale or least favorite scale to work in?
Right now, honestly, my favorite thing has been stablemates. I had never really appreciated stablemates before, like this year. I never collected them. I painted a couple, but never really had like good success in the results that I wanted. But this year I've really started, for some reason, I don't know why, but I've accumulated a ton of stablemates, and they've been so much fun to paint because they're small and you can do them pretty quickly and just pick more like crazy colors to try, because if they go wrong, it's not like you spent a lot on the material costs for them. So that's definitely been my favorite skill recently. It hasn't always been. Usually I just paint traditionals, but it's definitely a new appreciation of mine.
Yeah, they're awesome. I've been getting into minis lately too, or like the I feel like there's a billion names for it, but like that kind of in between curio scale. I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of resins have been released in that lately. I find that they're like a really nice in between because they're small, but not like super small, like enough
Mhm.
that you can have some of the details of the traditionals, but they don't take as long to complete.
Definitely, yeah. It's definitely nice to just be able to like prime a horse, and kind of just start on it and be able to get through like so many stages at once, or so many steps, just being able to like get the base coat on and then be like, oh wow, you're so small, like I'm already ready for the next step. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for young artists or just people in general looking to get into what you're doing?
It's probably gonna sound cliche, but I have to say that practice is definitely important, and I know that everyone says that, and it's probably not something that newer artists want to hear again, but there is credit to the practice makes progress saying that goes around, because as I said, I started in 2013 and I described the first model that I painted not really knowing what I was doing. And if you've seen my work or know where I am now, it's come definitely a long way over the years, and that's because I've painted each year continually. So just you're always learning, even with the horses that come out ugly or not as you want them to. It's all a learning process. Like I know it can be I know all too well it can definitely be frustrating, having like a good reference or like a vision in your head about how you want a horse, and then having it like quote unquote flop or not work is disappointing sometimes, but there's such a good learning aspect to each horse. And I would also just suggest like always try to educate yourself on all the different mediums and try to find a good medium that you like to work in, because everyone is different and prefers different materials. And what could be holding you back was not having the right stuff to work in. Some people are just better at others in different forms. So just play around and don't be afraid to mess up, and just always be looking for learning opportunities, and like watch YouTube videos or like read articles or just follow some of your favorite well-known artists or people that you like who are in the hobby that can maybe help you or guide you if they're willing.
Yeah, so true. And I think there's been, in the last few years at least, it seems like there's been an increase in the amount of either like YouTube content or just articles written about people sharing their tips and tricks, which I appreciate because I know like when I was starting out, I feel like there wasn't as much out there as far as resources. So if anything, it can save you time when you're starting to kind of at least have a baseline that works for some people and then kind of expand upon it from there.
Definitely. Yeah, like you'll develop your own techniques as you practice and try it yourself. You'll know what works and what doesn't, but it's definitely helpful to have an idea of how to start because I know it can be overwhelming. So seeing other people do it who have done it for a while definitely can be helpful at first.
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of a big question. Some people haven't known quite how to approach this, but what's one thing you'd like to see more of in the hobby? And this could be related to the art side or just completely independent of that.
That is a good question. I guess one thing that I could say that I've been liking lately from Breyer is the, since I've been loving stablemates so much, they've been creating these, like mini versions of the traditional molds. Like they did a Gypsy Vanner, not too long ago, I don't think, maybe a year or two, but, and they just released or they revealed at least like their Smart Chick Elena, miniature stablemate guy. So I think if they keep doing those, that would be awesome. Since I'm in my little stablemate obsession right now, if they would just create all the mini traditional molds, I think that would be so fun because you could either like make them lookalikes like their traditional versions, or you could just the color options on any model are endless. So it's always fun to have new stablemate molds out that you can play around with. I guess that's the first thing that came to mind for that question.
Yeah, I agree. I think, plus I think it's helpful too because some people either don't have the money or they don't have the space to collect the big traditionals. So if they shrink more down, it could give people opportunities to collect those molds or, at least semi lookalikes of them.
Yeah, that's really true. That's a good point. I do love how the stablemates are a lot more cost effective when you need a lot of them. Because I'm looking at all of the stablemates I have lined up, like either waiting for primer or waiting for paint or waiting for sculpting. Like they're all up here and there's so many, but I love having them around.
Yeah, agreed. I'm trying to limit myself to, I have a big plastic bin that's like my body bin.
Yes.
and I'm trying to not let it ever get
overflow.
More than yeah, exactly.
Yes, I need to get like a bin because right now they're all, like I said, I have one shelf, so most of them are on my like dresser right now for lack of a better space. So I just need to get like a little bin for them all.
Yeah. Overall, what does the hobby mean to you?
The hobby, I guess it's just been a really good thing to be enjoying over the years. Starting it as a kid, not really understanding like how much was involved with the hobby, just how much you can enjoy with it. I started with the classics that I had as gifts, but since now I just collect traditionals. But it's just been really nice to have fun throughout my childhood, and now I really love that as I've aged, the hobby has kind of matured with me. I'm no longer taking my horses in the yard for photos, which is great if you do. Like, I wish I still did that. But now my goals are more so like in the artist side of the hobby and just kind of learning and growing with that. So I've just really loved being able to paint the past few years and just get better at it. And that's probably my favorite part of it now, is not as much collecting. I still do collect and enjoy that side, but mostly now I'm just really loving all of the possibilities that come with being an artist in the hobby.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. As I've moved through college, I just get so busy, and it's just nice, especially with like this quarantine. Honestly, it's been nice because I've been able to paint a little more and kind of get back into it, and I think it's an outlet for me. It helps keep me less stressed, at least most of the time, when I'm dealing with college and other things.
I totally agree. It's usually, schoolwork comes first, but it's nice to be able to finish your assignments and then just be able to paint, and like it's kind of a nice stress reliever. It's kind of therapeutic sometimes, just being able to enjoy a creative passion instead of the analytical side of most schoolwork.
Yes, so true. What are your future goals? And this could be short-term or long-term goals as far as the art side of things.
My short-term goals are probably to open commissions again this summer, hopefully. I've been holding off just because, well, I've been in school for one, but I have so many horses that need painted here right now. I've been trying to get some of those finished. That way I can open commissions, because it's been a year and a half or maybe 2 years since I've done some. So it's nice to kind of try that again, because I know some people are really waiting on that. But long-term goals, I really just want to keep learning and growing and becoming a better artist, because I'm really inspired by those in the hobby that are more experienced than I am, and who've been in the hobby like twice as long as I have, and have really gotten good at painting and have like a career out of it. I don't know if I see myself as having model horses as my full-time career. That's not really what I'm pursuing necessarily right now, but it will be nice to just keep painting and keep learning. That way at some point I can do this as like a little side hobby, I guess, like I am now, and just continue, just keep working, keep practicing that way. In 10 years from now, like I've had 10 years in the hobby, so in another 10 years, it'll be interesting to see where I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are great goals. I want to turn this last little bit over to you to kind of plug your work, let people know where you are and, what's coming up for you.
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I am on Instagram as Autumn Wood Studios. There's a period between the autumn and after the wood, if you're really particular. But I also have a Facebook page that I've created recently. It hasn't always been there. The Instagram is my main outlet where I post most of my stuff, but I do have Facebook too, which is also Autumn Wood Studios. So yeah, you can keep up with me on those two pages. I post usually 3 times a week typically, just because that's when I have horses ready. I have an eBay. I don't really think people follow stuff on eBay necessarily as accounts, but my user is autumnwood3, where I do post the majority of my models, especially my stablemates, when they're for sale. Right now I have 2 to 3 sales pieces a week that are on there. But yeah, mostly Facebook and Instagram are the top 2. I don't have a YouTube, sadly, maybe someday, but definitely follow and keep up if you're interested in seeing more of my work and what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen me before, hopefully you're intrigued by this lovely interview, and you can see what I've been talking about, all of my pieces.
Yeah, definitely. I've been following you for a while, and I think you're super talented, so it's been great to have you on.
So sweet. Thank you.
Alright guys, that was the episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely go ahead and check out Samantha's work. I will leave her links below in the description. As always, if you guys want to get a more behind the scenes look of the show, go ahead and follow me on my Instagram. That's Frost Studios Equine Art. Tune in for next week's episode featuring Jackie and Heather of the Mares in Black podcast. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this episode. Jackie and Heather's podcast has been super formative in both the hobby and in me starting this show, so I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. They're doing a lot of amazing things. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!